Hello and welcome to this webinar. My name is Stefan Lindblad. I'm an artist, illustrator and graphic designer, and I live in Stockholm, Sweden. In front of you, you see a drawing that I made in my sketchbook, and this is what we're going to use as I show you in this webinar how I draw a woman driving a moped. And you're also going to see that I'm going to use, in the beginning, guidelines and angled guidelines. And why? Well, let's start by first zoom out so you see the whole picture. And then I'm going to duplicate this object. You can click Ctrl+D on the keyboard, but I'm just going to right click and click duplicate on the object in the Object Manager, just to show you the options you have. So, why guidelines? Well, now I'm going to turn the above off and then simply drag guidelines down to the shoulder here. Then I'm going to click on it again, and you see a little handle here, rotation angle. Well, the thing is with guidelines is that they help me in building up a composition as much as they help me in setting up the perspective, which is really good if you're working on a deadline. But it also helps you basically if you have a very long deadline. But it also helps me now when I activate the object on top again and I want to flip this image. And why do I want that? Well, because if you look to the left, you see that I haven't drawn any arm or anything like that, because that's the blank page in my sketchbook. You can see the fold in the middle here. So now I go, because I just want to flip this object and not the entire image, I go to Object, Flip, and Horizontally. And to make it even easier for me now, I'm going to add some opacity, some transparency to it. And then I'm just going to click Control key on the keyboard and drag it to the left. I'm going to zoom in so you're going to see that it's very easy now to see the nose underneath and above. And I'm going to use that when I, for example, rotate the top object here, so the elbow, oh no, the shoulder here is on the side, same height and so on as the shoulder here to the right. Okay, now let's see if that was enough, and then I'm just going to drag it, and you see how I used the nose as my reference, and it was very easy. And you can see that that is basically perfect for the thing that I'm doing. That's actually really good. So now I'm just going to check that the nose is where I want it, and it actually was, so I just Ctrl-Z, so that's a little bit up like that. Okay, and now I need some other guidelines, and I'm just going to drag them very quickly here. So I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. Actually, I have to say one more thing. I'm going to use a center kind of guidelines that I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to use the nose tip. Because what I want is to make this guideline here showing a sort of middle, and because you see the helmet, the middle of the eyes, the nose, and here the lights on the moped. And it's good to have this. I'm also going to add another guideline here, because as I draw, it's good to have a guideline showing, and here's the handle again, so I just drag it here, to show that I'm drawing on the same level. And this, of course, is even better if you don't have any reference image, but I like to use guidelines even when I have a reference image. And now I'm just going to add some other ones here as I go. So I'm just going to quickly put some here. It's actually helped me building up a composition. And at this stage, I know a little bit how it's going to look, or what I have envisioned, but the final image is most probably not going to look entirely as I envisioned it, which is good for this webinar, to show you how I use guidelines here in the beginning to build up and get an idea of something. And I say something because, as I said, I haven't really decided yet. This is pretty good, so I think I'm gonna maybe put a guideline here as well. So now I have a lot of guidelines happening here in the image. And already now you'll see that you either agree with me or you don't, but it doesn't matter really. But if you see in front of you now, if I would turn on these guidelines and get an idea of how I'm going to draw this, well, of course I can just start drawing it. But because I have guidelines set up, I have a sort of feel already on what's going to happen in this image. So now I'm this far, so now I want to draw something. I'm going to add a new object. I won't draw the whole person in one go here in front of you, because I want to save a little bit of time as I record this, because it's a long webinar. So what I'm going to do is to start drawing, and then I'll stop recording, and then I get back. You'll hardly notice it, but you will see that I've drawn quite a lot. So you kind of notice it. But I'm going to use the paint tool here in the toolbar. Sorry for that. And then I come up to the quick customize, or the brush category selector. I'm sorry. And then I use the art brush. I'm going to use one of my favorite brushes, Quick Doodler. Very good when I draw digital drawings where I want the outline to imitate a real felt pen or marker or anything like that. And it's also pressure sensitive. You also saw maybe, but I'm going to show you even more here now, that I'm choosing a soft nib. Okay, so I'm just going to pick a black color, and the black color that I pick is, as I start drawing, you're going to see down here that the image palette which I have activated here, in CorelDRAW it's called Document Palette, and in Photo Paint Image Palette. So I'm just going to start to draw and show you what's happening now. So in a short while, when we get back, after I've been drawing a little bit, some of these outlines I may have redrawn or something like that. We'll see. But it saves us a little bit time, because I think this webinar is stretching in the hour or something like that when we've finished. But you get the general idea anyway on how I'm doing. So what I'm actually doing now, you can see that there are some outlines areas are thicker and some are thinner, which is a very good thing. And I'm of course using Wacom Tablet, which is great with photo paint. It's absolutely perfect. You can use any kind of pen tablet that you may have. I'm just using the one that I'm using. I'm not going to draw the face so much right now. We'll see. Maybe I'll change the color or something like that for the facial contours or something like that. But I'll stop recording now, and when we get back you'll see that I've drawn quite more than this. Hello and welcome back. As you can see now, I've drawn quite more details on a body. You can also see that I have another color on the hair strands, and on her fingers. What you're now going to see is I'm temporarily activating the guidelines, is that if we look at the guidelines here, this one here and the other one here, I've widened the street. So if you would go back in this video, you can see that I've widened the street, and that's because I'm rethinking about how this image is going to look like, and because the guidelines are helping me in my starting out with the illustration, but of course they are not written in stone. So that's the beauty of using guidelines, of course. What I'm now going to do is to turn those off, and I'm also going to create a new object. And if you look down here, I'm going to take a color that's called deep yellow, and with this one I'm going to create a flat. And the flat is good in many ways. One is so the white color from the background layer or object won't shine through, but it also gives me an instant feeling of what kind of tone in color and expression that I want into my image. And by adding a bold color, you can of course use a soft and pastel or whatever, but using a color this way really give an impression and a feel for how I move forward with the illustration. Another thing that I did was, as I draw the outline, was to create an object on which I added a set of colors, and I'm going to show them here now. And by adding them on an object, I made it easier for me to just grab them and add them to the image palette. And then I'm just going to add more so I see that everyone is actually following with me here now. I think that's fine. So very easy, wasn't it? So now when this object is still here, I have all the colors that I need down here that I want to experiment with, and then I just delete it. And then I'm going to click Save. I'm just going to clean up a little bit around with the guidelines that I don't need. So I'm going to remove that one and this one here. I'm probably going to remove this one as well because I don't need them. So now what I need is to continue having a feel of what I originally thought. But as I said, the composition changed a little bit, not dramatically, but enough. So I'm just gonna pick for this one here. I'm gonna make a sort of facade of something and try to see how that looks. I'm just gonna click Control S and save this. I'm just gonna create a new object, of course. First, just gonna try to be inside of this one. I can use the Shift and Alt key to make straight lines. If you have an older version than X6, for example, in Photo Paint, you just used Control Alt, and that will make the straight lines. But I also like how we can just paint with a brush like this, as it is. Don't always need to make straight guidelines or straight lines, even though it's faster sometimes. So I'm just gonna quickly, all these things I can clean up a little bit afterwards. I have a feel of something here. Maybe I removed that guideline a little bit too early. So what I'm gonna do, I can use a darker color there. This one here, and here probably make this one here. Actually, I'm gonna put that on a separate object as well. I'm also gonna put that underneath and see if that can help me a little bit. Yeah, so I don't need to think about so much about the object I already painted. Okay, so I think I need to I forgot that guideline there. So more difficult for me to talk now. I'm starting the coloring. You guys probably know how it is. One thing about talking about sports now or culture or whatever, instead of actually talking about something you're drawing. I think I'm going to put up a guideline here actually. You see how the guidelines are helping quite a lot when you're drawing. Don't estimate the guidelines when you can rotate them, as you can do in Photo Paint. They help a lot. Just gonna click Control Save, Control Out, clean up that with the eraser tool. Same as here. Too much. Control Save. Okay, I think I'm just gonna paint some. I create a new object here, as you can see. Just gonna take a white and start to color these two, this area a little bit. So I'm just gonna paint them a little bit. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller so it goes a little bit faster. by coloring a little bit here and there, and not getting stuck on details on just one area, may give me more control over the final result. Because if I'm just painting on one or drawing one detail all the time, I might lose track a little bit on what I'm looking for. That's a new object, and I think I'm gonna paint some of this color here as well. I'm just gonna roughly put it in there, and then go over the details, cleaning it up a little bit afterwards, just so I get up to speed on see if I actually like what I'm doing, and if I think it works. Some of these things here shining through, I might actually keep as it is, because it give it a certain feel as well. Okay, so let's see now. I'm gonna create a new object and drag it so it's just above the flat object, and then let's see, somewhere here I'm gonna start to color a little bit. Something like that. When you're working with the large nib sizes, with nibs, if you want to have a sharper one here on the edge here, for a house, for example, even though it's soft and you want it to look a little bit sharper, you can just go back afterwards and with a smaller width of the nib, and that will fix it for you. So I'm just gonna quickly color this a little bit. I will go back and forth and add and remove as I go on, as I move on. I mean, the details, so it looks better, and that's quite intentionally also because it's always good not to just stick on one little detail all the time when you're drawing and painting something. It's good to move a little around over the image. That's a good tip for you, because that will give you, as you work, a better understanding of what you're doing and how it looks like, and the things you like to add or remove or whatever, something like that. So it's a good practice not to stick on one little detail and forgetting the whole picture. Okay, so what I now want to do is, if you look as I draw here, behind her and on the street here, I wanna use another paint color there that I selected before, and this one a little bit darker orange. So I'm gonna add a new object, and then I'm just gonna start painting that one here and see what happens. I think this actually is quite good, giving a nice feel to the image. And you see what already starts to get a life of its own a little bit. See if I would erase a little bit of the details there where I painted, and then I intentionally leave a little bit of see through there. So you can see the yellow. Let's see if we're gonna keep that. See there, something like that. Oh, and we need to paint something here in the background as well. This house there, I need to add some more color there. So I'm just gonna quickly grab that one here and see if we can just do like that. I'm going to start drawing and painting. I mean, not drawing, painting. I'll keep that for a moment. I'm going to start painting her head, her helmet. Before I start painting on the helmet, I think I need to erase a couple of things there. Actually, I'm just going to do it like that. take the eraser, and then now I'm erasing by painting, so to speak, method. You can use the if you have an older version, you just use Control Alt key to make straight lines, and in X6 and X7 you take Shift Alt. Yes, you know. Let's see if we remove it about like that as well here. Something like that. I'm gonna paint some skin color here on, and choose this paint color here, and paint on the hand. This is the skin tone that I chose just for this drawing right now. I could pick any skin tone, of course. Like that. I'm going to add some shadows to that soon, but I'm also going to put some same color here. And this also works a little bit like a flat first before I add all the other shadows and all that to the face and hand and other details. And just another object again. Instead of having a group, which is actually good, but I'm just saving a little bit of time here now when we are doing this webinar. And you saw that I choose multiply, so I have the same skin tone again, and I just paint on top, and it multiplies and it makes it a little bit darker. It's very cool, isn't it? Using that will now be good when I'm adding a shadow underneath the glass as well, and then under the nose a little bit, and then of course the upper lip, and then underneath the lip here I think would be good, and then a little bit details here like that. And maybe I should add some more there. Let's see. I think I'm gonna grab this blue color here and start to paint the color of her clothes, so to speak, or jacket, also her glasses. So I'm just gonna add some blue here. I'll fix these details a little bit, so I just flat out these areas a little bit. We'll see if I add some highlights on that one. Okay, a little bit too much there. I have to remove that as well. Clean up a little bit. And then I'm just gonna quickly these areas. I'll zoom out a little bit. Actually could take the 250 and then I just do it like that, and take the broad one. You see how quickly it is to color an image in photo paint. It's really nice. That's absolutely an excellent program to do these kinds of illustrations, and all kinds of illustrations and graphics and so on, of course. I see here now, because the legs are here, that means that something that I shouldn't miss here now is this area, and that should have the blue, no, the let's call it petroleum blue just for now. and because the legs are here now, and they have to be even darker than the one here. So just fixed this area. As I color this, I start to see how the hair and the hair strands is falling, and I have to think about those two and what color I'm going to use on the hair. And I think that I got inspired color of the hair when I saw a picture of Scarlett Johansson for a movie. I'm absolutely not doing any of the same kind of character, but I like the blue a little bit like when she's in the movie Avengers. But again, that's not her I'm doing. It's just I see that the blue here is kind of neat. Like that, and then we're just going to clean up a little bit with the eraser. And of course I need some shadows here now. So what I can do is to try to see, again, multiply and see how that works with the same color. Sometimes it doesn't work with the same color instantly. And for this one here, it's pretty dark. It might work, it might be a little bit too dark. But I might also add some opacity to this object, which will make the a little bit lighter without having to look for a light color, so to speak. Like that. See how that works, and then of course we need some shadow here, some sort of shadow here, and let's do that. So we define some parts of the body a little bit, so we get a more 3D feel. And go to the details and fix that as well. Before I do that, I just want to add some opacity so you see what I mean. So I had a darker color with multiply, and then I just drag the opacity slide in, and we get quite a good effect. Let's see if we keep that or if I go back to the darker one. As you can see, I took a little break here and just getting up to speed a little bit. So I worked a little bit on the shadows. You can see that I defined a little bit around the chest and the shadows around the cheeks and here on the belt, around the holding a backpack. I also want to add something here, is down here. It would be nice to just add some outlines here. Could be that's nice, I think. And then we can add something here as well. And then we'll just zoom out and see how that looks like. Those extra there is another way of adding some shadow. And then Control S, we save that so nothing happens, and then just a little bit on it. What I think I should do now is, I was thinking about making the payment, but I want to do something about the glasses, and I think actually I'm gonna paint those black. So on top of those blue objects here, 73 and 72, I'm gonna add another one, and I'm gonna continue with the blue here. No, the black, sorry, and simply add some here. I think I'm going to zoom in a little bit, don't you think so too? And I think I also should add some blue or black here on this one as well. I'm just going to leave some parts here of the blue underlying. See what what's left when I'm finished here, those will be like a sort of highlight and giving a cool effect. Pretty classic comic style. Although I'm actually not drawing Batgirl or Scarlett Johansson in Avengers, I clearly see that I must have been slightly inspired by those characters unintentionally. But I mean, it could be worse things to get inspired of, don't you think? So those are pretty cool characters. And a good actress also. So now let's see here. See if this works. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. And then do something like that. So it gets a definition of, it's like a, so it's not only flat over here. Something like that. And then maybe add some shape to that, so there could be some detail instead of just highlights. You see what I mean? Well, almost that way. I think I'm gonna something like that. I want to have some dark around the eyes, so that's why I don't leave so much. I'm gonna erase actually here a little bit here, so I get that underlying. So I'm using a soft nib when I'm erasing, also because I'm using a soft nib when I'm painting and drawing it. So when I erase and paint, it gets basically the same feel of the edge, which is important, of course. And these small antenna also should add some shadows here on the helmet, but I'm just quickly gonna add some black here, like that. Shadows close there, and I'm gonna leave that and paint that with some blue. And I'm gonna do similar here, so I leave some room for the blue to shine through. And I think I'm gonna do something similar here. Actually, like that, and then I cross it. That, and then I take one of the blue here and just pick it up here. I actually have it here in the image palette, so I'll just paint that. I'm actually going to paint the blue twice, because here's the basic blue that I have, and then I have to add, of course, with some multiply on it, so you get that exact dark feel that I'm after. And I have to erase a little bit here. And this is kind of a very good way of using multiply, so you can have two objects that you're continuously working on or working with, so you get things the way you want it. Okay, I'm gonna fix that because I did something wrong. And then these here actually give some feel to the hair strand, so it's not too flat over here. I think that's neat. And now let's see, I'm gonna erase something here. That was the wrong one, so I just get that off the checklist. Something like that, and then we'll of course have to put some paint on that and some color here as well. So we do that slightly soft, so we don't have to erase too much. think that might be good to add some definition to it here, and that will actually give the protection here on the cheek a little bit. I think that actually works quite well. Now let's see, I'll add another object here, and I have the blue color, and I'm just going to add a, before I move on, I'm just going to add some sort of, I have to add some multiply on that one, and add another tone here. We can see it as a shadow, and we can just see it as a coloring effect. I painted this on a new object instead of the ones that actually have the same multiply effect on them, because if I don't like this in the end, I could just quickly delete that one, so I save myself some time by simply planning this ahead in case I would change my mind. I think that looks okay, and then I'll just add a touch of now let's see, that could be okay. And there's definitely something here. That. Maybe something here as well. And then maybe leave the rest and see what happens after I've been looking at it a while. So we take a Control S on that one, and then move on. There's one thing that I haven't done yet, and that is to color the rear glass, and I'm gonna do that now. And I've been thinking about what kind of color to add to on them. So after a lot of thinking while I've been working, I think that it could be a good way of good decision to use the same color here. I could go with basically any kind of color, but what I'm thinking about why they have the same is, of course, because it's like a fashion statement. Probably the designer who made the bike maybe would have liked it like this, for example. But it also, if you while I'm talking, look a little bit on the color that I'm adding on these glasses, and then you see how the same paint is on the helmet, and then again the same color, of course, is on the body of the moped, the Vespa. And what that actually does is to well, let's see it in say it differently. If you look at oil paintings by the grandmasters of European painting in the, well, several hundred years ago, you could actually see in those paintings how they kind of use like a rectangle, and some colors repeats inside of those rectangles, and what it actually does is like music. You're painting a tempo, which is nice, and it adds some sort of rhythm and to the whole thing, which is really good. So that's I think something good to think about, actually, to use the same color repeated itself in like in a pattern. For example, now you see a stretch, like a stretched square here now, like a rectangle almost. Of course, it's not an even rectangle, but you see it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's like 4 corners. I stretch it a little bit, and they work really good together. If I would add some red here on these rear glasses, of course, that would probably look pretty cool, and work well, or an orange or something like that. But it does make this object in the or this part of the illustration work very good together. So now I actually think I should work on the payment here. So I'm just gonna add new object and then take this one here and try to see how that looks. Okay, that color could actually work. Now I test that, and then I'm just gonna zoom in so I basically see more of that, and because that is selected I don't have to have it open for the moment, and then I just gonna paint the payments very roughly, see what happens with it. And then I'm gonna activate the guidelines again, and by having guidelines here I'm not gonna follow it like a slave, but what I'm doing is that they really do help me in drawing a straight line. So sometimes the hand, when you're drawing, maybe you know that yourself, that it could slip and move on the tablet or the paper, and you have to draw a new line all the time. This can of course happen now as well, but the visual help actually make me focus a little bit more on drawing a straight line or curved line like I did right now, for example. So and then I'm gonna add some cracks here, and don't have to be perfect, just something that looks like old pavement. And then of course, because there's an edge here, I'm just gonna add the details to it here, and that's something like that. And I'm soon gonna add more around this area, as you're gonna see. I've been thinking about it, and I think I know what's gonna happen here, and it's probably gonna be pretty cool. And as you can see, it's pretty easy when you use guidelines or something else like a reference image or whatever that you get inspired of. You don't copy, you just get inspired. Or it's like me drawing using the guidelines. Sometimes when I don't use guidelines or I'm on using a paper or whatever, I just make a lot of lines, and all these lines, as there are myriads of them, they give me all these diagonals that I mentioned before and help me to see dynamics in it and perspectives that I really didn't think about maybe in the beginning, or which I wanted but somehow couldn't draw. By adding random guidelines and some plan, things always happen with the image, and it's quite interesting actually using guidelines. I mean, I see a thing here that I want to fix just before I move on so I don't forget it. If we zoom in here on the eyes, what I want to do now, you can see, it is to actually darken this area a little bit. But instead of taking and grabbing a color, the same base color for the skin, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to select it. And when I select it down here at the image palette, I go over to this one here, and then I'm just going to drag down here and get a color darker that I think would be kind of more, a little bit more black in or something like that. And I'm by using this one here, I'm gonna maybe add some. Now let's see here. Is that the one that I'm after? Yes. So and add some multiply to that one. So first I'm just going to show you how this suddenly looks a little bit awkward. And now when I add the multiply, you see what I'm after? See how cool that is? And now just because of it, I'll add multiply again and then just paint it in. And you see here the eye, adding a definition there. So I'm just gonna touch it over here a little bit. So I leave that, and also follow the glasses and the eye itself, how the eye is looking, because it's three-dimensional here, as you know. It's like a curve and round shapes there. And hopefully I'll like this in a while when I've been sitting and looking at it. Maybe we should see if we could actually add some dark here as well. Let's see how that looks. Actually gonna leave those details now. I'll need to do something here. And then I click Control. And now I'm actually gonna add something here. No, I'm just gonna keep it like that. Sorry. I'll fix that later on if it is. So I just see how it looks a little bit. What I've been looking at for a while now are the buildings here, and I think I need to raise quite a bit from them now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the Control Alt and simply do like that, and then see to that I get a fairly good portion of this erased, like that, and then something like that. So now with that gone, I'm gonna see to that I extend that object, and then also the orange, as you can see there. One thing, of course, is never to be afraid of removing things that you liked in the beginning. That will just hinder you in the end. And while saying that, I might actually remove the dark part here in the background. Let me think about it a little bit more before I do that. And instead, moving over to the orange here, and paint more of the orange now, because now I have to extend the orange color here, of course. And something like that. Similar here. And then, of course, I'm going to do that here as well. Like that. It doesn't matter that it touches the brighter part here of the hair, because I think I'm actually going to make her hair a little bit darker, similar to the red brown that I already have there. So, okay, I'm just going to raise a little bit over here on the orange that I don't think is needed there. And so now I need to, now let's see, I'm gonna, this is for these parts. So I'm gonna add a new object, and I'm gonna use a darker color of this one here, and around here and here I'm gonna reduce the size of the nib, and then I'm simply gonna use the Control Alt again. Control Alt again. Maybe I make this smaller, a little bit smaller, and of course I took the wrong color. Something like that, and then maybe something here as well. And then of course a little bit more here, but I'm just gonna fix those and see if I like those. I think I'm actually gonna widen the oh sorry, I took the wrong one there. I'm gonna take the a larger nib again, and then go out of screen. Actually, that was the wrong direction I was after. And something like that. And then simply reduce the size of the nib, because I want to, although it's a soft nib, I want it to be not too fuzzy on the edges, because these ones are actually quite close to our eyes, our viewpoint here, so those should have to be more solid, while those in the back could actually be a little bit more fuzzy, but I'm going to keep them as they are. The further away something is in the perspective, the more fuzzy and not so detailed things are, and the closer it is, of course they are more solid. Okay, and then let's think, maybe I should add something here as well. Save that. I think I'm gonna add like as if it was, sorry, I'm gonna add something here as if it was a sort of a sign. Let's see if I will add something on it later on. I don't know, maybe it's not necessary, but it didn't look too well, did it? So we'll do that again, and then something like that. I always think that I should actually draw something else here as well. Maybe like a tube or something like that. I'm gonna and simply draw by hand. So first I actually use the Shift Alt key, and then painted it. So I think this looks pretty cool. So then we just add something random that would look as something important or something like that. And I think I'm gonna add something here as well. Here as well. And if you can see now here, if I would drag a guideline, you can see they're pretty on the same height, but you can see down here it's more in, well, it's a diagonal, of course you can see that. Save that and click that away a little bit so I see a little bit more of the screen. And if I zoom in here on the at the bottom of these, they don't look so solid, so to speak, when they. So we have to do something here. Like, they of course need to have a sort of base for that, and I do something similar to this one here. Now that looks better. And then like that, so it looks a little bit more together. Especially now when I use this smaller nib size here, I need to see too that they look a little bit similar. I'll just leave them like that now. Like that. And I'm just gonna zoom out so I can see the whole picture and see what I think about it. And save. I think I need to add things here, like random, not so, draw them so they don't look so new. and then maybe some sort of cable or something. Double cable is not needed, maybe just something like that. Maybe something here as well. I mean, what these are could be basically anything, of course. I think I should do something similar here. So I'm just gonna add a cable like that, and then maybe something here as well, something that's hanging loose a little bit like that. And I'm gonna add similar things like I have here, so I repeat that here, set it, and then they look similar here too. And I should maybe add like a pipe here, because after all this is a building, so we'll just add something like that over here, and it needs some sort of thing tucked to the wall, and then you just paint this one. What I also think I should do is to do something here on the wall, of course, and I'll see if I change color for this one. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Just save. Now I'm just gonna create a new object on top of the house object, so to speak, and take a this color again, that's a little bit darker than that one, and then I'm just gonna very simply draw something that could be like a protection shield or something like that for a shop. And who knows, maybe this is a car shop street. Actually, I think that's a little bit too large. I should just make it a little bit thinner, and then add that one here, and then I simply try to follow the perspective, and then I do the same here. I might need to paint some sort of pipe here, so I'm actually gonna draw this here. Sorry. And then again, random, or not entirely random, but softly, I mean, touching, drawing, respectively, lines over there. And of course I'm gonna go up here and see if that was, yeah, that was the one. So I'm gonna take this color again and the pipe that I was talking about, because I think that's needed here. It doesn't have to be as thick as the one on the opposite, because it could look anyway here. Like that. And then of course something similar again. Let's take the chance to just add something here to it as well. Yeah, while at it, actually, I'm gonna try something, because I was talking about the background, so I was thinking maybe I should just add something similar here, and then do it like this. And what this does is, let's say if I remove, let's see if I choose the right one. Yeah, if I deactivate that one now, we suddenly have a totally new image. So let's pause a little bit and just look at it and see if this would be actually something to continue working with. Okay, before I move on here, I'm just gonna click an object here, create a new object, and then select that color. And then I'm actually gonna paint a shadow because the sun and the lighting is coming from that direction. So out of screen, add this one here, and another one, and somewhere there. I think that's fine actually. Try and see if coming somewhere like that would be fine. And I think that would be fine. Like that, and then maybe just erase a little bit like that. No need to do so much. And then actually add some opacity like that and click save. Now we have a better feeling, the sun and warmth coming towards us. I click a color here, and now let's see, where are we? We are there. So I'll create another object just in case I need to erase something here, because what I want to do now is to actually try to, well, let's zoom in a little bit here, and then quickly draw something here. Sounds like it's standing on something. Again, we add some stuff here. Some random stuff sitting here. Here maybe a new sign of sort. Replicating the one that I drew before. Let's remember. And here's another one. And that might look like that instead to keep the perspective I'm after. And then of course I could just add another one that is pretty much straight like that. Let's see how that works. And a little bit too thick, I think, down there on the ground. So we do like this, and then we add something similar here, something standing out there, and this one here very softly. And I'm sorry. And now we just add this one here, and on top of this one here, we're gonna add one boom, and then a little softer, and then ba-ba boom. And a little softer, if we can. I'm just gonna make that smaller, and then wait, like that. Similar here, and then of course a little bit. No, sorry. And then something here again, and we click that like that. Hope that looks okay. And then we go, and then another one there, and then it dives down there because it's so far away. And something similar. Oh, thinner, like that. And then we zoom out, and then I'm actually gonna choose the orange again, and I created a new object there that you might see, I've noticed, and then I basically keep some yellow seen in like that. Oh, sorry. and then I'm just gonna to keep that feel of perspective here. So I'll paint something up there like that. Click and save that. As you can see here now, it's a little bit too fuzzy, too soft. We need to have a contour here. So I'm just going to place myself, and as you can see, it's object 79 of these outlines, and that's there. So I'm going to use the same color, and then I'm going to add on this object here. I'm just going to reduce the nib, and then I'm just going to draw something here. Actually think I'm actually gonna make another one on top of that. It's much faster, and from there I'm just gonna add something here, something like that. I think that would do. I'll simply make a dark area here. I think that's neat, and the same here actually. Adding some depth to it, and then similar outlines there, contours, and then drag another one here, and then we're just going to zoom out, go to fit because I zoomed too much, and then click save. Sorry. I'm going to go to fit and go down here to 79 again, and then I'm very softly going to draw a couple of things here, like on the pavement again. I think that's needed actually. Not too much, just add some scratches on the ground, some dirt, so to speak. Like that. It's too clean, isn't it? And because I do it softly, as you can see the it's very easy to quickly So I became a little bit silent there, getting focused. So, and now I'm just gonna finish off by actually doing something with her hair. And I'm actually gonna paint here because I created an object here a while ago, and but I didn't paint the hair red. So I'm gonna do that now actually. And that's the hair over there, but I'm gonna create a new one and put that underneath, and then just kind of fill it with red. That's actually the wrong color, so we're actually gonna go for darker one here, and I'm gonna go somewhere there and just add some depth to this one before I add some more highlights and definition to the hair. I'm just going to paint here so it covers the yellow, and like that. Okay, so I click save. And And this almost ends the webinar and actually finishing off this illustration. But I have one more thing that I want to do. If you look here to the left, you have a roller shutter door, and I thought, why is she on the street? Well, she probably tried to get her moped, or you can call it scooter as well, repaired. So why not making it a scooter repair shop? So I'm going to do a couple of things here with the text. So I'm going to open the text properties docker so I find more effects at the same time. So I also already see that the text is in center, but you can choose any here, of course, but I'm going to go with the center. I also see that the line spacing here is I could change that, but maybe I should change more accurately when I change the font to the Abaton here. And now I'm just going to drag this. If I can find a little, do it like this, and just drag it a little bit into the image, and then go back again and add less spacing there. And I think I'm going to just drag here in a docker so we can see how it gets a little bit closer, and I'll go with that. So now when I want to place this one here, I'm just going to click I'm just going to click 1 and 2, and that activates handles. So I'm just going to use them almost as the envelope effect in CorelDRAW. Not entirely, of course, but almost. And then I click enter. And if we zoom in here now, we'll see that of course the perspective is pretty good here, but also what I want to add is some effect, because the roller shutter door, when I choose distort and displace, the door is not even, of course. So that's why I add stretch to fit. And as you could see here to the left, when I opened the dialog, it catched an old effect and setting that I had for a previous illustration I did. So that's why it remembered that. But you can change it, of course, and drag these sliders to the right or left or whatever, and choose another texture and so on. But I think when I'm looking at it, it's perfectly fine as it is. And so I'm going to click OK. And then I'm just going to add some opacity to it so it doesn't get too bright into my eyes when I look at it. And then maybe just place it a little bit like that. Because whoever painted this on his job, he probably just placed it there, and that was fine with him. And that's fine with me as well. So with that one, I'm going to say thank you and for joining me during this webinar. I had great fun. It's a long webinar, as I said in the beginning. I hope you got quite a few things out of this. Thank you, and good night or good morning wherever you are.